Hey, welcome back to True Crime Unraveled. I've been reviewing that 175-page transcript, and I would just like to know exactly how incompetent Brett Payne is, because he got the lead investigator position exactly 24 hours after the unalivings happened. And being lead investigator, he has responsibility for the case and the evidence. And he didn't hear Brian's name until December 19th, 2022. And that was because of the IGG, which the FBI had a hold of at that time. And before December 19th, Brian wasn't even on their radar. Yeah. Brian was basically unknown in this case before December 19th. That should say something. If Brian didn't show up on their radar until December 19th, then exactly how is he tied to this case? There's no motive. There's no connection. And there's no stalking of the victims. And December 19th was when the cast report team member co-located with Brett Payne. And Brett Payne doesn't even know how long that Balance was working with him, because he states, "I don't remember exactly, but it had to be, but it had been several weeks at that point." So, exactly how competent is Brett Payne when he doesn't even remember how much video footage that he looked at? Like, what the hell? He doesn't even remember how long they were looking at video. I mean, like Ann Taylor asked him, how many hours of videotapes did you think you reviewed? I don't remember. A lot. I can't give you an accurate representation. You should know exactly how long you were looking at video. You should know that. And she even asked him in those videotapes, did you focusing on any particular ones that were of interest to you? Yes, ma'am. In particular would be the blank. Are you talking about those addresses that would have that were, and how would you like me to refer to them? Well, how you nicknamed the cameras. So first one was 1112 King Road. It was a surveillance camera, an exterior surveillance camera, the light bulb cam, guys, the light bulb cam on a house that was immediately to the northeast of 1122. There was put now. Does this mean Linda Lane is actually being recognized as relevant, even though there's been a lot of alterations made to it since it's been leaked. There's been enhancements to it. There's been this added to it and that added to it. Because he says here there was some footage from from a Linda Lane camera. I forgot the address off the top of my head. There was footage from the A&W, which is at the corner of uh, Lauder and South Main. Okay, when he mentions Linda Lane, does that mean they're actually recognizing Linda Lane now after 2 years? Yeah, after 2 years, it was leaked and manipulated and dissected and cut up and enhanced. Do they have a copy that's not manipulated or cut up? Possibly, because we don't know if the owner of Linda Lane didn't make two copies, leaked one, and then gave the other one to police. That's a very possible situation. He made two copies, he leaked one, and gave one to police. The one that's leaked has been so manipulated and corrupted, it's not even funny. So, do the cops have a uncorrupted version of Linda Lane? I mean, you never know. We more likely won't find out until the trial starts. Yeah, the A&W is on is at Louder and South Main or Highway 95. There was footage from an address on Indian Hills. There was also footage from a Ridge Road camera. That's kind of ironic, guys. Where I live at, we actually have a street called Ridge Road. And that's how we referred to them, was basically by those names. And asked him, with those references in mind and keeping December 19th in mind, which of those cameras were you focused before you learned of Brian? And this is where I believe the airheadedness and incompetence of Brett Payne comes in. I would say all of them were important before, and then she asked, and it was later that other cameras became important. Is that right? And he said those were the main ones we relied upon for vehicles in particular. Is that those ones were? I'm going to return to that in just a minute, but I want to talk to you about interviews. Did you interview any people relation to the case before December 19th? Yes, ma'am. And did the officers interview people? Yes, ma'am. Were some of those people the roommates of the people at 1122? Yes, ma'am. Did you review other officers' work as well? Yes, ma'am. How this man has never worked a murder investigation. How are you going to make him lead detective of a quadruple homicide? Basically, throw him into the fire when he's never worked a murder investigation. Before this quadruple homicide happened, he was just a corporal. He'd been out to the house for noise complaints and then threatening Xana with the Greek Council and Blaker uh, threatening Hunter Johnson and the people throwing the house party with the Greek Council. And the way I see it, they're just thugs with a badge. Incompetent thugs with a badge, but thugs with a badge. Because a couple of months before this homicide, they were tormenting the hell out of these kids. They were harassing these kids. I mean, even that noise complaint where I think it was Rosendahl took a picture of Kaylee's ID or scanned Kaylee's ID, and there was no noise coming from the house. The speaker wasn't on. There was no noise. They just came from a noise complaint down the road, and they pretty much well that day decided to target the people in the house when there was nothing going on. There was no music. There was no noise. Uh, and instead of going to the front door and knocking, they went behind the house to the back door where Hunter Johnson, wearing zip ties around his wrist, answered the door, went and got Kaylee. Kaylee came out. She clearly looked uncomfortable, especially when Rosendahl was either scanning her ID or taking a picture of her ID. You could tell she clearly looked uncomfortable. She looked uncomfortable because these officers have been harassing them for months. And that's what I call it. They were harassed for months by these officers. Thugs with a badge, basically. And now you have one of the most incompetent officers named lead investigator 24 hours after the quadruple homicide. And he acts like he don't know what he's doing. And this probable crap affidavit we've learned was the product of Blaker, Payne, and Mowry. They all three worked on one and individually, and then just clumped it together into one. Basically, copy and paste into one. Now, with the PCA, why couldn't one of them, like say Blaker or Mowry, why couldn't they work on the PCA by themselves? Why did it have to be a trio, like three hands into a cookie jar? There was too many hands in the cookie jar going developing this PCA. Is that wrong? I don't know. I see it as wrong, in my opinion. I mean, in all honesty, I see it as wrong. But I haven't read the entire 175 pages. Uh, I'm going to be doing that here a little bit later today. But it's all about common sense when it comes to dealing with Payne and Blaker and Mowry. And I'm sorry, in my opinion, they don't have common sense. Because look at some of the early hearings. Uh, Payne said he relies on the work of others, but yet he's a lead investigator in the case. Personally, I think that's just in name only. Lead investigator in name only, even though he did have a military career, probably a exemplary military career as as an MP. But as far as a civilian police officer, as far as a lead investigator in a quadruple homicide, I think he's in over his head. I think they all are in over their head. I mean, just like Steve G stated, that they're basically in over their heads because something like this hasn't happened in Moscow probably in at least a decade or two. So if they're in over their heads and they don't know what they're doing, and they didn't get Brian's name until December 19th, then that means Brian didn't do nothing. Brian didn't do it. Like always, guys, if you like this video, hit the like button. While you're here, go ahead to the subscribe button and make sure you click that bell notification and it's clicked to all for all my new content, deep dives, rants, and reviews. You guys have a good Sunday. This is True Crime Unraveled. I'm out. Peace.